London, 1852. A hush fell over Lady Harrington's grand ballroom as Benedict Everley, Earl of Westmoreland, strode through the gilded doors. Women's fans fluttered with greater urgency, and gentlemen straightened their posture in recognition of the most eligible bachelor in London. At 30 years of age, with a fortune as impressive as his lineage and a countenance that had broken countless hearts, Lord Everley had become accustomed to such reactions. "Ah, Westmoreland," drawled his oldest friend, Lord Arthur Pennington, approaching with 2 glasses of champagne. "Fashionably late as ever. I was beginning to think you might disappoint half the maidens in London by failing to appear." Benedict accepted the offered glass with a wry smile. "The day I voluntarily attend one of these affairs will be the day London's matchmaking mamas can finally rest easy. And yet here you stand." "A promise to my mother," Benedict replied, scanning the room with practiced indifference. "She insists I must secure a bride before the season's end." Arthur chuckled. "The Countess is determined, I see. Any prospects that don't make you shudder?" "Not a one." Benedict's gaze continued its casual assessment until it stopped suddenly on a figure across the room. "Who is that?" The woman in question stood apart from the usual clusters of debutantes. Her gown, though finely made, was simpler than most, a deep emerald silk that complemented her complexion rather than overwhelming it. Her auburn hair was arranged elegantly, though without the excessive ornaments favored by many. She appeared to be in her early 20s, and while not conventionally beautiful by society's rigid standards, there was something in her countenance, a quiet confidence, an intelligence in her eyes, that commanded attention. "Ah," said Arthur, following his friend's gaze. "Miss Sophia Montgomery. Niece to the Dowager Viscountess Blackwell. Arrived from the country just last week. I haven't seen her at any other functions. This is her first appearance in society. There are whispers she's been living in seclusion after some unfortunate circumstances. The details remain vague." Benedict watched as Miss Montgomery politely declined an invitation to dance, her expression betraying no emotion save for a fleeting shadow that crossed her features. "Intriguing." Arthur laughed. "Good Lord, don't tell me the impenetrable Earl of Westmoreland has finally found someone worthy of his interest." "Don't be absurd," Benedict muttered, though he couldn't tear his gaze away. "I'm merely curious about a face I don't recognize." "Then perhaps you should satisfy your curiosity. She hasn't danced once this evening." With a dismissive grunt that belied his sudden interest, Benedict handed his empty glass to Arthur and made his way across the room. Sophia Montgomery maintained her pleasant expression through sheer force of will. The weight of countless stares pressed upon her shoulders like a physical burden. 6 years away from London had done little to dull her memories of society's cruelties, but necessity had forced her return. Her aunt's generosity in sponsoring her reintroduction to society was not something she could refuse, regardless of her misgivings. "My dear," her aunt whispered, appearing at her side with a glass of punch, "you must dance at least once. People are beginning to talk." "Let them," Sophia replied softly. "I have no desire to put myself on display." "That is precisely why we are here," the Dowager Viscountess insisted. "To restore your reputation requires visibility, carefully managed. Remember our purpose." Sophia suppressed a sigh. "I remember it all too well." "Then you might wish to know that the Earl of Westmoreland himself appears to be heading in our direction." Sophia's heart leapt traitorously before she could master it. Every unmarried woman in London knew of the handsome, wealthy Earl who had thus far evaded matrimony. His approach would ordinarily be considered a triumph, but Sophia knew better than most how quickly triumph could turn to disaster. "Your ladyship," the Earl said, bowing to her aunt before turning to Sophia. "Miss Montgomery, I believe?" "I am Westmoreland." "My lord," Sophia curtsied, keeping her eyes appropriately lowered. "I wonder if you might honor me with the next dance." Her aunt's elbow nudged her discreetly. Thank you, my lord, but I'm afraid I must decline. I find the room rather warm and was just contemplating some air." She saw surprise flicker across his handsome features, no doubt unaccustomed to refusal, before it was replaced with something that looked surprisingly like genuine interest. "Then perhaps I might escort you to the terrace?" It would be unconscionable to allow a lady to venture out alone. Caught by her own excuse and her aunt's expectant stare, Sophia had no choice but to accept his proffered arm. As they moved toward the French doors leading to the terrace, she felt the weight of every gaze in the room, imagined the whispers already beginning. The notorious Earl of Westmoreland with the mysterious Miss Montgomery, it would be the gossip of tomorrow's breakfast tables. The night air was a blessed relief from the stifling ballroom. Sophia inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "You're not like the others," Lord Everley remarked without preamble. "I beg your pardon." "The young ladies of the ton. They giggle, they simper, they maneuver for attention. You, on the other hand, seem determined to avoid it." "Perhaps I simply have no talent for giggling or simpering, my lord." A genuine smile transformed his face, softening the aristocratic features. "Refreshingly honest as well. Tell me, Miss Montgomery, what brings you to London after an extended absence," she supplied when he hesitated. "My aunt's kind invitation. She believes it time I rejoined society." "And you? What do you believe?" Sophia met his gaze directly, something she rarely allowed herself. "I believe society can be unforgiving to those who fail to meet its expectations. But one cannot hide forever." "Indeed." He studied her with disconcerting intensity. "Though I find myself curious about what expectations you could possibly have failed to meet. We all have our secrets, Lord Westmoreland." She turned toward the garden, breaking their eye contact. "Even you, I imagine." "Touché, Miss Montgomery." He laughed softly. "I begin to understand why you've chosen observation over participation this evening. And yet you've abandoned your usual position as the observed to seek out my company. The entire room noted your approach, my lord. Let them note it. Perhaps I tire of being the prize stallion at auction." The unexpected candor in his voice surprised her. Surely the most eligible bachelor in London enjoys his position about as much as you appear to enjoy being scrutinized as a potential match. His shrewd assessment hit uncomfortably close to home. "We are not so different, you and I. Both playing roles assigned to us rather than chosen." A footman approached, interrupting their conversation. "Lord Westmoreland, Lady Harrington requests your presence inside." Something about a promised quadrille with her daughter. The Earl's expression flickered with annoyance before settling into practiced politeness. "Please inform Lady Harrington I shall be there momentarily." As the footman retreated, he turned back to Sophia. "Duty calls, it seems. But I would very much like to continue our conversation another time. I'm sure our paths will cross again, my lord." "I shall ensure they do, Miss Montgomery." He bowed over her hand, his lips barely brushing her gloved fingers. "Until then." As he departed, Sophia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Benedict Everley was dangerously perceptive, and far more genuine than his reputation suggested. If she wasn't careful, her carefully constructed persona might crack under his scrutiny. And that, she could not afford. "She refused to dance with you." The Countess of Westmoreland stared at her son in disbelief over the breakfast table the following morning. "Benedict, are you quite certain?" "Quite certain, mother." Miss Montgomery preferred the terrace to the dance floor. "How extraordinary." The Countess buttered her toast with thoughtful precision. "And you found this appealing?" Benedict sipped his coffee to hide his amusement. "I found it honest. A quality in short supply among marriage-minded debutantes. She is lovely, though not a classical beauty," his mother mused. The Viscountess mentioned some unfortunate business in her past, though she was deliberately vague. Something about a broken engagement and a period of seclusion in the country. "I see the gossip mill has been efficient as ever. Information is a currency in our circles, my dear. One I've always traded wisely." She fixed him with a penetrating stare. "You're interested in her?" It wasn't a question. Benedict considered denying it, then shrugged. "I'm curious." "Curiosity is a start." His mother smiled. "The Montgomerys were once quite prominent, you know." Old money, good connections. Her father lost much of their fortune before his death, but the family name still carries weight. I have fortune enough for both of us, should it come to that, Benedict remarked absently, then caught himself at his mother's triumphant expression. A hypothetical observation only, mother. Of course. The Countess dabbed her lips with her napkin, poorly concealing her satisfaction. I've invited the Viscountess and Miss Montgomery to my garden party next week. Perhaps you might continue your curiosity there. Benedict knew when he'd been outmaneuvered. Perhaps I shall. After breakfast, he retreated to his study, intending to review estate documents, but found his thoughts returning to Sophia Montgomery. The brief conversation on the terrace had revealed an intelligence and wit that intrigued him far more than her undeniable physical appeal. There was depth to her, a complexity born of experience, or perhaps suffering, that set her apart from the shallow waters of London society. A knock at the door interrupted his musings. Enter. His butler appeared, bearing a silver tray. The morning papers, my lord. And a note that was just delivered by hand. Benedict opened the folded paper, recognizing his friend Arthur's scrawl immediately, *Westmoreland****, you might wish to see today's edition of the Gazette before venturing out. Page 3 contains some rather interesting assertions regarding your Miss Montgomery. ****, A.P. With a sense of foreboding, Benedict unfolded the newspaper. Page 3 featured Lady Whistledown's society column, a notorious source of gossip thinly disguised as news. Halfway down the page, a paragraph caught his eye, ***, this author notes with interest the return of a certain Miss M to London society after a 6-year absence following most scandalous circumstances. Readers with long memories may recall the young lady in question was once engaged to the heir of a prominent ducal family before being discovered in a compromising position with his younger brother. The subsequent duel left one brother dead, the other fled to the continent, and Miss M disgraced beyond redemption. One wonders at the audacity of her reappearance, and at the Dowager Viscountess B.'s judgment in sponsoring such a return. Even more curious is the attention paid to this fallen woman by the Earl of W., London's most sought-after bachelor, who was observed in intimate conversation with her just last evening, ***, Benedict cursed under his breath. The vicious paragraph, while avoiding direct names, left little doubt as to the identities involved. He remembered now the scandal from years ago. He had been at Oxford then, paying little attention to society gossip, but even he had heard whispers of the Montgomery girl and the tragic affair that had left the Duke of Hertford's heir dead and his younger son exiled. The butler cleared his throat discreetly. Will there be anything else, my lord? Yes. Have my carriage brought around immediately. Sophia's hands trembled as she set down the morning's Gazette. She had expected whispers, sideways glances, perhaps even direct snubs, but not this public resurrection of her darkest hour. Not on her first appearance in society. My dear, I am so sorry. Her aunt's face was drawn with concern. This is unconscionable, even for that wretched gossip column. We were naive to think the past would remain buried. Sophia's voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. 6 years is not long enough for London to forget such a scandal. We shall weather this, the Viscountess insisted. Hold your head high. Deny nothing, admit nothing. In time, newer scandals will replace the old. And in the meantime? Every door will be closed to me. Again. Her aunt reached across the table to grasp her hand. Not every door. Those who matter will still receive us. Those who matter. Sophia laughed bitterly. Like the Earl of Westmoreland? I imagine his interest has cooled considerably after this morning's reading. As if summoned by her words, the butler appeared at the doorway. My lady, the Earl of Westmoreland requests an audience with Miss Montgomery. The two women exchanged shocked glances before the Viscountess recovered her composure. Show his lordship to the blue drawing-room. We shall be there directly. When the butler had gone, Sophia clutched her aunt's arm. I cannot see him. You must, her aunt replied firmly. His calling after this publication is significant. Remember your dignity, Sophia. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Don't I? Sophia whispered, but allowed herself to be led to the drawing room. Lord Everley stood by the window, his tall figure silhouetted against the morning light. He turned as they entered, his expression impossible to read. "Your ladyship," he bowed to the Viscountess before his gaze settled on Sophia. "Miss Montgomery." "This is an unexpected honor, Lord Westmoreland," her aunt said. "Particularly this morning." "I imagine my timing seems either very poor or very deliberate," he replied. "I assure you it is the latter." Sophia found her voice at last. "You've read the Gazette, then?" "I have." His direct gaze held no condemnation, only a steady assessment. "And I wish to ensure you were not unduly distressed by its contents." "Most kind," Sophia managed, though hardly necessary. "I've endured worse." A shadow crossed his face. "So I gather. Would you permit me to speak with you privately, Miss Montgomery?" "With your aunt's blessing, of course," he added with a respectful nod to the Viscountess. After a moment's hesitation, her aunt nodded. "I shall be in the adjoining room. The door will remain open, naturally." Once they were alone, or as alone as propriety allowed, Benedict gestured to the sofa. "May we sit?" Sophia perched on the edge of the cushion, her back rigid. "You need not have come, my lord. I require no rescue from gossip." "I didn't come to rescue you." He sat beside her, maintaining a proper distance. "I came because I wish to form my own judgments rather than accept those of a scandalmonger. And if the scandalmonger speaks truth—" His eyes, a deep blue she hadn't fully appreciated in the dim light of the terrace, studied her with unsettling intensity. "Truth is rarely as simple as gossip would have us believe." "In this case, the essentials are accurate enough," Sophia admitted. "I was engaged to Lord James Hertford. I was found in what appeared to be a compromising position with his brother, Lord Thomas. A duel was fought. Lord James died. Lord Thomas fled to Italy. The clinical recitation of facts cost her dearly, but she forced herself to continue. My reputation was destroyed. I retreated to my aunt's country estate and have lived there in relative seclusion until now." "I see." His expression remained unreadable. "And the part the Gazette omits?" "Your version of these events." Sophia's laugh was brittle. "Does it matter?" "In the court of public opinion, the verdict was rendered long ago." "It matters to me." The simple statement, delivered without artifice, nearly undid her composure. "Why?" "You barely know me. I know enough to recognize that there is more to your story than scandal." He leaned forward slightly. "I've spent years deflecting the machinations of society. I've become rather adept at discerning character." "And what does your discernment tell you about me, Lord Westmoreland?" "That you carry guilt that may not be wholly yours to bear." His gaze softened. "That whatever occurred 6 years ago still haunts you. That you've returned to London not from desire, but from necessity." His perception was unnervingly accurate. Sophia looked away, unable to maintain eye contact. "You're very observant." "Only when something, or someone, captures my interest." He hesitated before continuing. "The Countess is hosting a garden party next week. I believe you and your aunt have received invitations. After this morning's Gazette, I expect those invitations may be rescinded." "They will not be," he said with quiet authority. "My mother is not easily swayed by gossip. Unlike the rest of society. Some doors may close," he acknowledged, "but not all. Will you come?" Sophia studied him, trying to understand his motives. "You risk your own reputation by associating with me." A smile tugged at his lips. "My reputation could benefit from a little risk, I think." He rose to his feet. "Until next week, Miss Montgomery." After he had gone, her aunt returned to the drawing room, her expression a mixture of concern and hope. "Well, he has invited us to maintain our acceptance of Lady Westmoreland's garden party," Sophia said, still bewildered by the encounter. "Excellent." Her aunt sat beside her. "The Earl's public support will go far in quieting the worst of the gossip." I don't understand his interest, Sophia confessed. He could have any woman in London. Perhaps that's precisely why he's interested in you, my dear. The Viscountess patted her hand. You're the only one not trying to capture him. The week that followed the Gazette's publication was precisely as difficult as Sophia had anticipated. 3 invitations to upcoming events were rescinded with poorly disguised excuses. Several acquaintances suddenly found themselves too occupied to receive visitors when Sophia and her aunt called. The whispers and stares when they ventured out were painfully familiar, reminding her of those terrible weeks 6 years ago before she had fled London. What she hadn't anticipated was Lord Westmoreland's steady, public support. He called at their residence twice more that week, each visit noted and remarked upon by society. At the opera, he joined their box during intermission, openly conversing with Sophia while the ton watched in fascinated disapproval. By the day of Lady Westmoreland's garden party, Sophia found herself both dreading the public scrutiny and, against her better judgment, looking forward to seeing the Earl again. You look lovely, her aunt said approvingly as they prepared to depart. Sophia wore a gown of pale blue muslin, simple yet elegant, with her auburn hair arranged in soft curls beneath a matching bonnet. I feel like a soldier preparing for battle, Sophia admitted, adjusting her gloves. In many ways, you are. Her aunt's expression grew serious. Remember why we've returned to London, Sophia. Your brother's situation grows more desperate. This may be our only chance. I know. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders. I won't fail him. Lady Westmoreland's garden party was, as expected, the social event of the week. The Countess greeted them warmly, betraying no hint that she considered their presence controversial. Miss Montgomery, how delightful you could join us, she said, taking Sophia's hands in her own. Benedict has spoken of little else but your conversation since Lady Harrington's ball. Your son is too kind, Sophia replied, wondering at the Countess's obvious approval. Kind is not a word often applied to my son, Lady Westmoreland said with surprising candor. Discerning, perhaps. Selective, certainly. But kind? Only to those who deserve it. Before Sophia could respond to this loaded statement, Benedict appeared at his mother's side. Mother, I believe Lady Essex is searching for you regarding the musical arrangement. Of course. The Countess smiled knowingly. Miss Montgomery, I leave you in my son's capable hands. As she departed, Benedict offered his arm. Shall we walk? The gardens are particularly fine today. They strolled along gravel paths bordered by summer blooms, conscious of the eyes following their progress. Your mother seems remarkably accepting, Sophia ventured. My mother trusts my judgment, he replied. And she has never been one to bow to society's arbitrary verdicts. A rare quality. Indeed. He guided her toward a stone bench partially secluded by flowering shrubs. I've been meaning to ask, what brings you back to London after so many years? I suspect it wasn't a sudden desire for society's embrace. Sophia hesitated, weighing how much to reveal. My aunt believed it was time. Miss Montgomery. His voice gentled. In our brief acquaintance, I've noted your remarkable composure in the face of cruelty, your dignity when others would have crumbled. What I have not seen is dishonesty. Please don't begin now. The direct appeal, delivered without artifice, broke through her carefully maintained reserve. My brother, she said softly. Samuel is in trouble. Serious trouble. The kind requiring significant funds, I presume. She nodded. He was always reckless, even as a boy. After our parents died and our circumstances changed, he sought escape in gambling, drinking. His accumulated debts far beyond his means, beyond our means, to pay. And now his creditors have come calling. They've given him until the end of the month. If he cannot pay. She swallowed hard. He faces imprisonment. Or worse. So you returned to London to secure funds, Benedict concluded. But how? Forgive my bluntness, but your family's financial situation is known to be strained. My aunt believed. Sophia stopped, suddenly aware of how mercenary her next words would sound. That you might secure a wealthy husband, he finished for her. A common enough strategy. Shame colored her cheeks. It wasn't my idea. I knew what reception awaited me in London. But Samuel is my only family besides my aunt. I couldn't refuse to try. Benedict was silent for a long moment. Your honesty does you credit. I've spoken too freely, she said, rising from the bench. Please excuse me. He caught her hand, preventing her departure. No. You've spoken exactly as one friend to another. His thumb traced a small circle on her gloved palm. How much does your brother need? £5,000, she whispered, the sum still shocking to her ears. Benedict's expression didn't change. A considerable amount, but not insurmountable. It might as well be millions for all the chance I have of securing it. Perhaps not. He released her hand but remained standing close enough that their conversation remained private. I have a proposition for you, Miss Montgomery. One that might solve both our problems. Sophia's heart stuttered. I don't understand. My mother, as you may have gathered, is determined to see me marry before the year's end. Her health is not what it once was, and she wishes to see the succession secured. His gaze held hers steadily. I have resisted thus far because I found no one I could imagine spending my life with. No one who valued truth over convenience, substance over appearance. Until now. The question escaped before she could contain it. Until now, he confirmed, his voice deepening. I propose a bargain, Miss Montgomery. Become my wife, and I will settle your brother's debts immediately. Sophia stared at him, momentarily speechless. You cannot be serious. I assure you, I am entirely serious. But why? I bring nothing to such a union, no dowry, no connections worth mentioning, and a reputation in tatters. You bring yourself, he said simply. Your intelligence, your courage, your integrity. Qualities I value far above fortune or family connections. You hardly know me, she protested. I know enough. His expression softened. I'm not proposing a love match, Sophia. May I call you Sophia? I'm proposing a partnership. One based on mutual respect and honesty. And if I refuse? Then we part as friends, and I will find another way to assist your brother. He stepped back slightly, giving her space. I don't wish you to feel coerced. Think on it. We can discuss the matter further when you've had time to consider. Before she could respond, they were interrupted by the approach of another guest, Lord Arthur Pennington, whom Sophia recognized from previous occasions. Westmoreland. Your mother sent me to inform you the musicians are about to begin. His eyes darted curiously between them. Miss Montgomery, a pleasure to see you again. Lord Pennington, she acknowledged with a polite nod. We shall be along directly, Benedict told his friend, who took the hint and retreated back toward the house. Once they were alone again, Benedict turned to Sophia. We should rejoin the party before our absence causes more gossip. But please, consider my offer. Take whatever time you need. As they walked back toward the gathering, Sophia's mind reeled. Marriage to the Earl of Westmoreland would resolve her most pressing concerns, her brother's debts would be paid, her own future secured. Yet the idea of accepting such a proposal, based not on love but on a practical arrangement, felt hollow. And yet, there was something in Benedict's manner, in the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, that suggested the possibility of more than a mere business transaction. Something that made her wonder if, in time, respect might deepen into affection, perhaps even love. The carriage ride home from Lady Westmoreland's garden party passed in silence, Sophia too preoccupied with Benedict's proposal to engage in conversation. Her aunt, sensing her distraction, waited until they were settled in the drawing-room before speaking. Something has happened, she said, studying Sophia's face. Something significant. Sophia took a steadying breath. Lord Westmoreland has asked me to marry him. The Viscountess's teacup clattered against its saucer. Good heavens! So soon? I had hoped he might develop an attachment, but this exceeds all expectations. It's not what you think, Sophia said quickly. He's proposed a marriage of convenience. He needs a wife, I need financial assistance for Samuel. I see. Her aunt set down her cup carefully. And what did you tell him? That I needed time to consider. A prudent response. The older woman leaned forward. But what are your feelings on the matter? Sophia rose and moved to the window, gazing out at the London street below. I hardly know. When I agreed to return to London, I never imagined, she broke off, shaking her head. I expected at best to secure some minor position as a companion or governess that might provide enough to help Samuel. At worst, I expected complete social rejection. And instead, the most eligible man in London offers marriage. Her aunt's voice softened. Many would consider it a fairy tale ending. Is it? Sophia turned back to face her. He speaks of partnership, of mutual respect. Admirable sentiments, but hardly the foundation for happiness. My dear, many marriages begin with far less. Respect can grow into affection, partnership into love. And if it doesn't? Sophia countered. If I spend my life bound to a man who offered marriage out of, what? Pity? Convenience? Do you truly believe that's all he feels? Her aunt's shrewd eyes assessed her. I've observed Lord Westmoreland these past weeks. His interest in you appears genuine. Perhaps. Sophia sighed. But there's something else troubling me. He knows nothing of what truly happened 6 years ago. If he did, then perhaps it's time someone knew the truth, her aunt said gently. The whole truth, Sophia. And risk losing this chance to help Samuel? I can't. Consider this, if Lord Westmoreland is offering marriage despite believing the worst of the gossip, might his regard not deepen if he knew you were, in fact, innocent? Sophia shook her head. It's not that simple. The truth implicates others. Others who still have much to lose. Your loyalty is admirable, my dear. But at some point, you must consider your own happiness. The Viscountess rose and embraced her niece. Whatever you decide, I will support you. But don't dismiss this opportunity out of hand. Lord Westmoreland may be exactly what you need, not just for Samuel's sake, but for your own. That night, Sophia lay awake, Benedict's proposal turning in her mind. Marriage to him would mean security, social redemption, and salvation for her brother. It would also mean building a life with a man she admired but barely knew, while harboring secrets that might destroy any chance of true intimacy between them. By morning, she had made her decision. Benedict was reviewing estate accounts when his butler announced Miss Montgomery's arrival. He rose quickly, straightening his waistcoat. Show her in at once. Sophia entered the study, her simple blue walking dress and matching pelisse suggesting she had come directly from home without her aunt's accompaniment, a significant breach of propriety that indicated the urgency of her visit. Miss Montgomery, he greeted her, closing the distance between them. This is unexpected. I apologize for calling without proper notice, she said, her voice steady despite the faint flush in her cheeks. But after our conversation yesterday, I felt. She paused, seeming to gather her courage. I felt we should speak privately before matters proceed further. Of course. Benedict gestured to a pair of chairs near the fireplace. Please, sit. May I offer refreshment? No, thank you. She sat, her posture rigid, hands clasped tightly in her lap. I've come regarding your proposal. He took the chair opposite, studying her face. You've reached a decision? Not yet. She met his gaze directly. Before I can, there's something you must know. The complete truth about what happened 6 years ago. Benedict leaned forward slightly. I'm listening. Sophia drew a deep breath. You know the outline, my engagement to Lord James Hertford, the apparent indiscretion with his brother Lord Thomas, the duel, Lord James's death. What you don't know is that I was never intimate with either brother. I never believed you were, Benedict said quietly. Her eyes widened in surprise. Why? Something in your demeanor suggests a woman of principle. Continue, please. Lord James was not the man society believed him to be, Sophia said, her voice dropping. Our engagement was arranged by our fathers when I was just 17. I had no objections then. He was handsome, charming, from an excellent family. But once we were engaged. She hesitated. He showed a different character in private. Benedict suggested. Yes. He was controlling, sometimes cruel. He had expectations of my behavior that went beyond proper conduct for an engaged couple. Her cheeks colored. When I refused his advances, he became angry. Threatening. Benedict's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. His brother Thomas witnessed one such episode and intervened. After that, Thomas became my ally, my protector when James's temper flared. We formed a friendship, nothing more, I swear it, but James grew increasingly jealous. Sophia's voice trembled slightly. The night of the scandal, James had been drinking heavily at his club. He arrived at our home unannounced, demanding to see me. Thomas happened to be there, delivering a book he'd promised to lend me. And James found you together. She nodded. In the library. We were simply talking, but James flew into a rage, accusing us of betrayal. He struck Thomas, then me. Her hand unconsciously rose to her cheek. The servants heard the commotion and entered. By morning, rumors had transformed the incident into a sordid affair. And the duel? Benedict prompted gently. Thomas had no choice but to accept when James challenged him. I begged him not to go, but he said his brother was dangerous, that he would never stop until. She swallowed hard. The duel was meant to be to first blood only, but James aimed to kill. Thomas defended himself, and somehow in the struggle, James was fatally wounded. So Thomas fled to avoid murder charges, Benedict concluded. Yes. And I was left to face society's condemnation alone. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. My father died 3 months later, some said from the shame. Our family fortunes, already declining, collapsed completely. Samuel and I were left with almost nothing. Why didn't you tell the truth? Surely there were witnesses, servants who saw what actually happened that night. The servants were loyal to the Hertford family, not to us. And the Duke, James and Thomas's father, was grief-stricken, determined to preserve his heir's reputation at all costs. It was made clear that if I spoke out, Thomas would be hunted down and charged with murder. She met his gaze steadily. I couldn't be responsible for another death. Benedict rose, moved by emotion, and paced to the window. So you sacrificed your own reputation to protect Thomas. I had no choice. He turned back to her. And now? Why tell me this after 6 years of silence? Because you've offered me your name, your protection. She stood as well. I couldn't accept without you knowing the truth. It wouldn't be fair to you. For a long moment, Benedict simply looked at her, taking in the quiet dignity with which she had endured years of unjust condemnation. Then he closed the distance between them, taking her hands in his. Sophia Montgomery, he said, his voice low and intense, you are the most remarkable woman I have ever met. A small, startled laugh escaped her. That is not the response I expected. What did you expect? That your revelations would change my mind? That I would withdraw my offer? Most men would. I am not most men. His thumbs traced circles on her gloved palms. My offer stands. If anything, I am more certain than before that you are exactly the woman I wish to make my wife. Sophia studied his face, searching for any sign of deception or reservation. Finding none, she whispered, why? Because you possess a courage and integrity rare in our circles. Because despite everything you've endured, you've maintained your dignity and compassion. His voice softened. And because when I'm with you, I feel possibilities I've never considered before. Possibilities? Of a marriage not merely of convenience but of true partnership. of a life shared with someone who understands the weight of duty but still values honesty. He released one of her hands to gently touch her cheek. Perhaps even of love, given time. Sophia's heart stuttered at the unexpected tenderness in his tone. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he murmured. "Say you'll be my wife. Allow me to restore what was taken from you. Let me help your brother. And perhaps, in time, let me win your heart as you have already begun to win mine." The sincerity in his eyes undid her final reservations. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you, Benedict." His smile transformed his face, erasing the aristocratic reserve and revealing the man beneath. Slowly, giving her time to withdraw if she wished, he leaned forward and brushed his lips against hers, a gentle, chaste kiss that nonetheless sent warmth coursing through her. When he drew back, his eyes held a promise that made her breath catch. "I will speak to your aunt today to formalize our engagement. And I'll have my solicitor arrange payment of your brother's debts immediately." "Thank you," she said simply, knowing the words were inadequate for the gift he was giving her, not just financial security, but a chance at redemption, at a future untainted by the past. "No, my dear Sophia," Benedict replied, raising her hand to his lips. "It is I who should thank you. For your trust, your courage, and the honor of your acceptance." The announcement of the engagement between Benedict Everley, Earl of Westmoreland, and Miss Sophia Montgomery appeared in the Gazette 3 days later, sending shockwaves through London society. The ton, ever fickle in its affections, quickly divided into factions, those who decried the match as scandalous and those who, following the Countess of Westmoreland's lead, declared it a romantic redemption. For Sophia, the weeks that followed passed in a blur of activity. Benedict insisted on a short engagement. "I've waited 30 years to find you, I see no reason to wait months more to make you my wife," and preparations for a September wedding consumed her days. True to his word, Benedict had settled Samuel's debts immediately. Her brother, chastened by his narrow escape and the knowledge of the sacrifice his sister had been prepared to make, swore to reform his ways and had departed for the Westmoreland estate in Derbyshire, where Benedict had arranged a position managing the horse breeding program. The Countess, to Sophia's surprise and relief, had embraced her as a daughter, defending her fiercely against any who dared question the match. "My son has chosen," she declared to Lady Essex, whose disapproval had been particularly vocal. "And I find his choice exemplary in all respects." Even more surprising was the gradual shift in society's treatment of Sophia. Invitations that had been rescinded were reissued. Acquaintances who had cut her in the street now stopped to converse. The power of the Westmoreland name, combined with Benedict's unwavering support, had accomplished what years of quiet dignity could not. Yet despite these external validations, Sophia found herself increasingly drawn not to society's renewed acceptance but to the quiet moments with Benedict. Their courtship, though brief, had revealed depths to her fiancé that both surprised and moved her. Beneath his aristocratic reserve lay a man of principle and compassion, whose incisive mind matched her own and whose dry humor could coax laughter from her when she least expected it. 2 weeks before the wedding, Benedict invited Sophia to tour Westmoreland House, which would soon be her home. As they moved through the grand rooms, he attentive to her reactions, she found herself overwhelmed not by the mansion's opulence but by the realization of how dramatically her life was about to change. "This will be your study," Benedict said, opening double doors to reveal a sun-filled room lined with bookshelves. "I noticed your love of reading. I thought you might want a space of your own." Sophia entered slowly, taking in the elegant desk by the window, the comfortable chairs arranged near the fireplace, the shelves already filled with volumes. "This is overwhelming. Too much." He frowned, suddenly concerned. "I can have it changed." "No," she interrupted, turning to face him. "It's perfect. I'm just not accustomed to such consideration." Benedict crossed to her, taking her hands in his. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something that happened yesterday." "What is it?" she asked, noting the unusual tension in his expression. "I received a letter from Italy. From Thomas Hartford." Sophia's heart lurched. "Thomas? But how? He's been following the London papers from abroad. He saw our engagement announcement. Benedict released one of her hands to retrieve a letter from his coat pocket. He wrote to congratulate us, and to... He hesitated. To confirm everything you told me about that night 6 years ago. He didn't need to do that, Sophia said softly. I know you believed me. Yes, but he felt compelled to set the record straight, at least with me. And he shared something else. The Duke of Hertford died last month. Oh. Sophia absorbed this news, thinking of the stern, proud man who had demanded her silence. I'm sorry for Thomas's loss, despite everything. Thomas has inherited the title. He's returning to England next month to claim his position. Benedict's expression softened. He asks permission to call on us, to thank you personally for your years of silence that protected him. Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes. After all this time. Justice comes slowly sometimes, Benedict said gently, but it does come. Your reputation will be fully restored when the new Duke publicly acknowledges the truth. My reputation ceased to matter the moment you offered me your hand knowing the gossip, Sophia replied, meeting his gaze directly. You gave me back my future when you believed in me despite everything society said. I believed in what I saw in your eyes. His hand rose to cup her cheek. The same thing I see now, strength, integrity, and something I've come to hope might be affection. More than affection, she admitted softly. The realization had been growing in her for weeks, impossible to ignore. What had begun as gratitude had deepened into respect, then into something warmer, more profound. I never expected to feel this way again, to trust, to hope. You've given me that gift, Benedict. His eyes darkened with emotion. Are you saying what I think you're saying, Sophia? I'm saying that what began as a practical arrangement has become something else entirely. She gathered her courage. I'm saying that I've fallen in love with you, Benedict Everleigh. For a moment, he simply stared at her, his expression one of wonder. Then he pulled her into his arms, his lips finding hers in a kiss far less restrained than their previous exchanges. When they finally parted, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. I have loved you, he confessed, since that night on Lady Harrington's terrace, when you spoke to me not as the Earl everyone wishes to capture, but as a man worthy of honest conversation. Everything since has only deepened that feeling. Sophia's heart soared at his words. Then we begin our marriage not with convenience but with love. As it should be. He kissed her again, briefly. I promise you this, Sophia Montgomery soon to be Everleigh, the woman who entered society in disguise, hiding her true heart, her true character, has captured mine completely. And I shall spend a lifetime ensuring she never regrets it. As she stood in his embrace, in the study that would soon be hers, in the home they would share, Sophia felt the weight of the past 6 years finally lift. The road ahead promised challenges, certainly, society's memory was long, and redemption was never complete, but with Benedict beside her, those challenges seemed not obstacles but opportunities to demonstrate the strength they had found together. The lady in disguise had indeed captured the heart of London's most eligible bachelor. But more importantly, he had captured hers in return, offering not just his name and protection, but a love born of respect, honesty, and the courage to look beyond appearance to the truth that lay beneath.